Hey team, welcome back to another episode of the Jenn Commandments podcast. I am your host, Jenn Wien. I'm an engineer currently working in Wisconsin. I grew up in the Chicagoland area and I went to college in Michigan. Y'all, listen, I've been putting off starting recording this episode because this episode's going to be really hard to record. Because we're going to be unpacking. I want to issue a trigger warning first. um, because we're going to be talking about some like triggering concepts. We're going to be talking about like like harassment. We're going to be talking about we're going to be talking about consent. We're going to be talking about the way that intimacy flows between men and women. And we're going to be talking about all that sort of stuff today. And so if you're not in a place that you can hear about something like that, um, please skip this episode. Um, and I will see you next week. Love you very much. Okay. So anyway, the wig the wig tried so hard to make it to the episode. I took pictures with the wig on. My thought was that I was going to keep the wig on enough to get like a thumbnail for the video, but like listen. Picture this on my head, okay? Unfortunately, the Fashion Nova wig is just not as comfortable as I'd like it to be, and I just had like a hard time. I had a hard time. So like, one sec. Are you seeing the vision? Are you seeing? We don't look perfect. But like listen. Just pretend, okay? Um anyway, okay. It's been a couple weeks since I've talked on the pod. I did some it's just been a little bit since we've talked. It's been about 2 weekends over the course of the last 2 weeks. Um, I've seen a lot of new people. I've met a lot of people, and I've reconnected with people. Um, in that, let me get my notes out and let me take the wig off because this is serious. Okay, I'm gonna read my bullet points and then we'll talk about them. That's how I planned to start the episode off. So yeah, I was put in a position in the last couple of weeks that sort of expanded how I view consent. I think personally, if you're my friend and you plan on continuing to be my friend, you cannot blur lines with intimacy, physical intimacy, namely, in any sort of capacity. There's a couple reasons why that. Anyway, I had someone I hadn't seen in almost 10 years make a move on me, like start rubbing on my body. The very first time we ever sort of had any sort of like one-on-one time, and that's just what happened. Okay. Let's continue to build some context, right? This person and I had always been very good friends. And it was obvious that there was attraction there on both sides. However, we had never overstepped that boundary. So to that point, from my perception of things, we were homeboys basically. Because I don't if I'm friends with somebody, the only context in which I'm okay with risking friendship, right? The only context in which I'm okay with risking somebody that I truly value, respect, and love, right? I'm only willing to ruin a friendship for romantic purposes, right? If we have some sort of conversation that's like, hi, I'm feeling some sort of romantic chemistry, I'm feeling some sort of something, and I would like to maybe explore that further if you're comfortable with it, right? Because there's many dating apps that are at this point in time in the year of 2025 basically unpaid sex work. Okay. That's what dating apps are in many heteronormative situations. Okay. There is a million different places that you can get physical intimacy. So, from my perception, someone that I haven't seen for 10 years is not the candidate for that, especially if this is somebody that I see being friends with again long term, right? This is sort of like a rekindling of a relationship, right? To establish to that person that I am somebody who just wants to be their friend and that I am safe to them, I would never think to touch them the first time that I see them after nearly 10 years. Period. So let's get into let me refer to my notes. So I said, now in theory, nothing that bad happened. Um and listen, while things were transpiring where his hands started to wander, right? Because at first it was normal, like not friend intimacy, but like he was rubbing my feet. That's something that I would do to my friend, right? But then his hands started to wander. And while his hands started to wander, he said, "Is this okay? Now, baby, do you really care about my fucking consent if you're already doing it? What else am I supposed to say?" Especially as somebody who has faced complex trauma in a lot of ways. And this is not to rid myself of the responsibility of advocating for myself, right? The dilemma that I get to is that this person knew of the various traumas that I had. This person knew that I am not as experienced as he is with physical intimacy. He knew that, like, there were a lot of things that this man knew about me that implied that there was some sort of not dynamic there, but like the cards weren't fair either. This was a man, we were alone in a space. Like there's just like, if anything, right? Because listen, those sort of lines are blurry, and I don't want to accuse him of anything. It's just I made a couple of realizations about how I would like to be and how I need to be treated as it relates to physical intimacy, um, by my friends, by potential romantic interests, by just like the various levels of it. And I think that it's good that I'm experiencing these things so that I can learn my boundaries and I can learn all this stuff. Um, but like on the other side of it, I think that there is sort of like, I feel like there's a bigger conversation that needs to be had as it relates to why did this person think that it was socially acceptable to like rub my body just because we were two people of the opposite sex in a space alone. Do you know what I mean? Why is that the implication, just because we're two people who are in theory attracted to each other alone in a space? So here's sort of what I've gathered, right, from this sort of conversation, because he and I are sort of two different sides of a spectrum, right? Where like he is a very sexual person where I'm not a sexual person at all. Um And I think that somewhere in the middle, a more balanced view of things, I think is obviously better overall. Because I know that I have plenty of issues as it relates to physical intimacy. Like, we'll get into it a little bit later. But like, while those things were transpiring, like, I had a physical reaction to intimacy, and I finally also made like a connection, of like, oh, my body is still in a phase where it's physically reacting to physical intimacy, and that's part of why I'm scared of it, et cetera, et cetera. um and we'll get to that. However, I think there's some, I want to handle this conversation delicately, because when me and this person had the conversation, I think it wasn't as delicate as it probably should have been. I think obviously I felt uncomfortable by being touched, and therefore maybe didn't have the most level-headed reaction, right? And like, I have a very delayed response as it relates to figuring out how I actually feel about things, because I had to just sort of passively accept a lot of things as a child, which is like like something that I'm continually working to unlearn, of like advocating for myself in a moment instead of having to wait a couple of days and figure out how I actually feel about it, because I repressed it in a moment. Like, that is some real trauma response and like unpacking that needs to happen. Um, of course, like, it's a work in progress. It I think it's a little bit, it's better that I delay right now because I'm sort of a hothead. So like, the non-delayed response is also a different sort of extreme. So like, it's hard to figure out, right? So like, anyway, as delicately as possible, I think if I could make a suggestion to men, right? Because I think that men truly underestimate just how frequently other men mistreat, or to the extent that certain men mistreat women, or I don't know. I think that the ways in which men and women compartmentalize is different. I think that I don't know, because any man to me is a threat. Period. I don't care how long I've known you. I don't care. I do not give a fuck. Like, you have to establish safety with me at least once. At least once. You have to establish to me that you are not a fucking predator before we can even start to think about, like, and listen, just because you're attracted to somebody that you're friends with, does that mean that you should fucking touch them? I would argue that you should probably have some hot friends that you're attracted to that you never touch. I would have that. I would suggest that for any fucking person in the world, actually, because it challenges you to maybe restrain some of your lust. It maybe challenges you to not see anyone that you're attracted to as somebody to be conquered. I think there's just like a million reasons why that would be a fucking beneficial thing for you to do. But that's just me. Make some fucking friends that you're attracted to that you don't touch. Maybe don't sexualize every person that you're attracted to. That's fucking crazy. Anyway, I'm pissed off. I'm pissed off because, like, why would I want a man to touch me that doesn't take me seriously? That's like, listen, if a man is like, I just want to fuck you, or if a man is like, I'm just whatever, that's like, in my opinion, that's a man telling me that, like, he signs off on like my superficial features, but he doesn't sign off on like my personality, which is like the only thing that I fucking care about. So fuck you. No, you cannot just touch my body because you think I'm attractive. Guess how many people think I'm attractive who will never touch my body? Many, many. And you think you're just entitled to it? Me. Someone who has, I won't even, I don't even finna go there. You know what I mean? Like, T. I'm glad that that has been on his mind for the last 10 years at least. And he got to cop a feel. I'm really proud of him for that. Um anyway, that was not half as nice as I thought it was going to come across, but hey. So here's the tea. I think I realized through this that I used to feel insecure that I had never had like a casual intimacy era. And I guess this year would be sort of like when I look back on my life. Maybe I'll have more casual eras in my life. I don't know. But like I think I've realized that as much as I used to think it was like a I'm uncomfortable with this and I don't know how I feel about it. I think I've sort of realized that, like, I don't want somebody touching me if they don't think that I bring like the stars to the sky. That's really what it is like, oh, you're not in love with me, then why do you think you should get to touch me? That's crazy. Fuck out of here with all that. That's insane. Thinking you can fucking come into my home and touch me. Right. Okay. And like, I think, again, like we said, I think this brings up a broader conversation because, listen, I don't think men ever think that they are inherently predatory in any way. I don't think that they think that they're misogynistic in any. I think that all men, because they're better than whatever their example of a male figure in their life was, because they're better than that, they think that they're like the epitome of like whatever they got going on, right? They think that they're really the best that ever did it. And like the truth of the matter is like you can pride yourself on being something, but if you're the only person who thinks you're that person, you're that thing, whether that be safe, whether that be like whatever, I think it would be an easier conversation to have if, like, I don't know, we were just a little bit more honest about, and I don't know, maybe a little bit more critical of our like our male friends, you know, like I think in the last year I've really learned how to see my male friends for who they are for real, and like the moment that they show me a glimpse, I'm like, "Oh, okay, I see now." And I can like move forward knowing that I made those friends when I was a very different version of me, many of them, and like they simply don't fit the way they used to. You know, and that's okay. That's fine. That's normal. To grow out of certain things and like whatever is fine. And like I don't know, I held a lot of internalized misogyny for most of my life and I'm still unlearning a lot of internalized misogyny. And so I think it makes sense that many of the friends that I made during those phases of my life have those same internalized problems. Does that make sense? Like that's the way he's always been. Like he's always pushed the boundaries of talking about sex, talking like of course. Why did I think that I was the exception? You know, why did I think that he would never push those boundaries with me, even though I had heard that he had pushed those boundaries with others? I'm not the exception, just like he's not the exception, you know? So I don't know. Rough, rough time. So yeah, I'm disgusted today. I am, which makes sense because a bitch is disgusted. I think over the last year, for real, we have really done a lot of fucking research about men, you know, like, and I don't know. I think just the tea is like, I don't know, if you walk like an unsafe duck and you talk like an unsafe duck, that's all. It's okay. But I don't want a motherfucker touching me. Don't fucking touch me, bro. Like, yeah, have some attractive friends that you don't be fucking. Fucking practice some discipline, some fucking sexual discipline, please. Holy shit. If I made moves on like every time I was attracted to one of my friends, what? You bitches are disgusting. I'm disgusted. Sick. Anyway, yeah, dude. I went and looked for Webkins today. Um, the place by my house, they sold out, but I did get added to their wait list. So they finna call my line when they got some for me. You know what I mean? I'm real excited about that. I Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm spiritually exhausted because I think that men think that they're always the exception to the rule. Cuz I think I make it pretty clear to everyone that, like, I'm not a casual girl. You do not touch me casually. I'm not a sexual person. Even when I'm at the club with the girls and they throw an ass and they acting a fool, I play bodyguard. I don't really be slapping ass. I don't really like, I'll catch ass once in a while. Um and maybe I'll throw a little ass on someone I'm comfortable with once in a while. Um but I'm not, you don't fucking touch me, because I have some problems with intimacy, one, but also, bitch, that, for me, we've talked about it. I think it's still linked to shame a little bit, like Christian shame. But I have this idea of what somebody who should be allowed to touch me is. And let me tell you something. My idea of what somebody who should be allowed to touch me is does not include some random man that I haven't seen for 10 years. That's not a part of it. And so, yeah, yeah. Anywho, it's rough. It's rough. It's disappointing. Um, and this man, like, knew how I feel about intimacy. He knew that I don't want to be touched outside. Like, we had talked about those things, and we had talked about how I was taking a break from intimacy because I was having such a hard time with it. And like, why do you think you're the exception? Why do men consistently think that they are the exception to the rule? The reason why there are rules to begin with is because they are unsafe. So don't break the rules. I'm happy that I'm exploring things that I had been too scared to explore previously. And I'm grateful that I'm having new experiences. Nothing too terrible has happened to me, but I have been made to be uncomfortable. And being uncomfortable is good. This sort of uncomfortable is not good. You know what I mean? There are levels to it. We started to touch a little bit earlier on having a physical reaction to physical intimacy. Now, the situation that I'm talking about is a bit complicated, because in those situations, I am going to do what I'm told. that for me, um that's what I've found to be the safest way to get out of those situations. And that's been the safest way for me to get out of those situations, is to like pretend like everything's good until I can get myself safely out of the situation, until the situation safely comes to a close or what have you. And listen, this, it sucks because even if this person wasn't unsafe, that is how my body feels about the situation. That's an important thing to like denote, I guess, is like even if my body read the situation as a bigger threat than what it was, the point is like that feeling is still here and it's still there within my body. Um and so that got triggered. And like I so okay, while we were like laying up, I threw up because like this man who like I had already like just sort of accepted whatever, not whatever was going to happen, but like I didn't know what other options I had also. Like I said, this is a person who I'm alone with. Like I don't know. Like I said, there is no such thing as a safe man until I like explicitly express to you that I deem you as safe. And like even then you should still like, as my friend, why do you assume anything that you deserve any part of physical intimacy from me? I don't just like touch my friends. Maybe you do, but like you knew that I don't, and you still touch me anyway. So like I don't know. I don't think I'm the weird one in that situation. You know, like I actually threw up because I was like I gave physical warnings that like I wasn't maybe the most comfortable. So, you know, yeah, I threw up. And listen, that I me throwing up is not just a problem that was exclusive to him. I had felt nauseous probably the last 3 times I've been intimate with someone. I had thought all those other times that it was because it wasn't with someone I necessarily knew that well, and so I was like, maybe you're just like nervous cuz you're like showing your body to somebody who you're not necessarily comfortable around, or you know, there are just like different factors. Um but nah, I which is interesting because the other times I had been intimate and nauseous, I I had wanted to be intimate with those people. Like I had invited that intimacy damn near, you know. No, I did invite those intimacies, but I was still so my body is still having nervous system reactions to physical intimacy. I don't know how long that's going to last, where my body physically is scared of sex or anything that I deem as like close to that. You know, like anyone touching me, basically, I have a very negative body reaction to. Um, and I've been unpacking that in therapy over the last couple months of my relationship to physical intimacy. And it's so hard. Um, Almost all of my examples of, or almost all of my introductions to sex as a kid were non-consensual. Whether that be like my very first like long-term boyfriend for real, um, how we started talking was that like he groped me at band camp. Like I was the summer between 8th grade and freshman year, and he got me alone in a band room and like groped me. And that's like, I didn't know how else to get him to leave me alone. And so I sort of got stuck in that situation. And that no one's to like blame for that, but that was the person who taught me about sex, because I didn't really have any other like I didn't really have a talk with anyone. I didn't really watch porn until I was 19. Like I was pretty like sexually green when I started having sex. Like, and the person who taught me about sex was very domineering and very, you should do what, very like, knew that I was green. That's funny. Knew that I was green and like not took advantage of it, but like definitely used that to his advantage. Like he was a junior, I was a freshman, and like, yeah, that's another conversation for another day. But like he was my introduction to sex. And then like the only other introductions to sex that I had had before that was like my friends getting assaulted, or me getting assaulted, or hearing of like, my initial reaction to men is going to be that they are a threat until they explicitly show me that they're not. And that you can't just explicitly show me once and like have a forever card about it like that. You have to renew that hoe, because like being a safe man evolves and changes. And so if you're not putting in the work to evolve and change as a safe man, hoe, then does it really count? Like, I don't know. I don't know. I just have like we have a very complicated relationship to intimacy, and I'm working on it. But like, I think people need to be realistic about where I'm at then though too. Like I know that I carry my shit, like I handle my shit really well. I know that it seems like from outside the club, bitch, it seems like I'm handling my shit really well. But there are times it comes out. Um there are times where what has happened to me throughout my lived experiences really shows itself. And I think physical intimacy is one of those things where you can really tell that like, oh, that bitch has been through something for real. Like, and it sucks. It sucks. I certainly hope that it improves throughout my lifetime, and I think it's going to. But in the meantime, I do, like I said, I do think this situation is like two sides of the spectrum, like the answer is somewhere in the middle, but like, I don't know, man. You really got to establish like, I just hope that men figure out that like you need to do a better job of establishing safety, because like no man ever thinks that they're an unsafe guy, you know? Um, but like, I bet you can also think back to a time that like maybe you were a little too pushy or like whatever, where like you let your lust sort of be the driver in the conversation, opposed to using like, I don't know, sexual discipline, or just like that, I don't know, something in that realm of being like, I am attracted to this person, they're probably attracted to me too, maybe that's been established between us already, but like that doesn't mean that we need to overstep that threshold. There's no reason to overstep that threshold if you, like, I don't know, respect and care for your friend for real. But like, because I don't know, I would never risk my friendship for that, you know. But hey, that's just me. Okay. This is the last Halloween episode for this year. I'm sorry that I didn't wear the wig, bitch. This would be like the third or fourth time I'd wear a wig this Halloween season, and this is my first Halloween season wearing wigs. So just know that like a bitch is tired. Okay. I This for me is sort of like my last hurrah. Obviously, I'm going to post episodes November and December as well. But like a lot of November and December is going to be me taking some time off and really figuring out what I want Jenn Commandments to look like next year. I'm really excited about potential guests. I'm really excited about potential locations that I'm going to. And that sort of thing. So I don't know. I'm just really excited to continue to expand Jenn Commandments and like continue to talk about things that are hard to talk about, um, because I think we should. And like in a fair, I don't know if this was that fair, but like I tried to be with like being made to be uncomfortable, you know. So I don't know. That's all I got today, team. Thank you so much for listening. I love you guys so much. Um, yeah, I'll talk to you guys next week. I love you. Wash your face, drink some water.